Hello, and welcome back to my channel. Today's vlog is featuring Hello Kitty, my favorite. So today we are going to be talking about how to get a UX design job with no experience, which is something that I did immediately after college. So for context, in college, I studied media arts and sciences, which was basically a major that was comprised of computer science and art. And ultimately, I did it because I wanted to learn technical skills and I thought that art was a fun thing to learn about. But really, my goal throughout college was to go to law school. Then I ended up becoming a startup founder. So today, I'm the founder of Anja Health, which helps pregnant parents free stem cells from their umbilical cords and placenta to use for future disease treatment. But I have another video talking about why I ultimately decided not to go to law school after I did a Goldman Sachs internship. So check out my Goldman Sachs video if you would like to know more about that whole side quest. I also have various videos about my founder journey if you want to learn more about that main quest. But today I'm going to talk about the side quest of becoming a UX designer. So I was basically a UX designer a little bit in college. I did a year op at MIT, which is basically an undergraduate research opportunity. And then immediately after college, I actually started at a company called Publicis, which is a tech consultancy. And I was a UX designer slash product designer there. And we would consult for big public companies. So I was mainly doing wireframing and helping our UX research team, etc. Okay, so I think that the first step to starting any job search is to just genuinely start doing the things that you would do in that job and publicizing that you're doing those things. So for instance, if you want to get into investment banking, I would start doing case studies as though you were an investment banker and maybe tweeting or making content and YouTube videos about the fact that you're doing these things so that you can practice it in real time, see if you like it, and have something to offer during interviews, applications, cover letters, etc. So that's basically what I started doing essentially in summer 2018 while I was networking to get my Goldman Sachs job. I was also setting myself up to potentially pursue UX opportunities and build out a UX portfolio. So after my internship and days of coffee chats with Goldman folks, I would go home and work on my UX portfolio. Basically, what I would do is find user interfaces like app screenshots and websites and things like that that I really liked. And I would study their user experience and make a user journey map. And then I would also screenshot the pages that I really liked. And then I would try to remake those pages on Figma. And then I would also create new versions of those screens to propose changes to better the user journey on Figma as well. So this was my design portfolio that I slowly built over the course of summer 2018. Basically, after my internship, I would come home and design these little projects. And then I actually used my HTML coding skills to code this website, and I used this thing called Netlify to actually publish the site. So for instance, what I was talking about is the Express app redesign. So you can see in the current app, consumers manage the shopping of their Express items. So I had screenshots of the current app, and then I basically did some competitive UI research, looked at other apps and what they were doing. And then I would slowly redesign the apps off of the screenshots. So for instance, I added the favorite button right here. And I also added a bag icon next to the favorite button to allow users to quick shop. And I streamlined the process of getting to the sidebar by placing all of these options at the top of the application here. So you can see that there were basically pain points that I was determining through reviews, also looking at other apps. And I was looking at what my pain points were, and I was redesigning the UIs based on those pain points and modifying the user journey as a result. And that's really what the day-to-day looks like of being a UX designer. So I just started doing it and then documenting my process of doing it so that I could show this portfolio to people as I was applying to jobs. I did the same thing with an office hours app and bot design. So this was actually through a course, and it wasn't based off of a redesign of an existing app, but I created a app for people to schedule office hours more properly. Had an idea for a photo editing app. So I also made this prototype of this photo editing app. You can see this screen recording here of what I wanted to do. I basically wanted to allow people to airbrush a face and body, Photoshop parts of one app, of one photo to another, collage photos together, adjust filters. So I wanted to combine two of my favorite photo editing apps, which was an app called Airbrush and then an app called Moldiv that allowed you to create collages. So I wanted to put all of those together, and I would use different frameworks to create different models of the user journey. So, for instance, you can see this hierarchical task analysis. And then I just started documenting all of these on this HTML site. And then the portfolio itself became a design project that I could showcase my skills with because I coded the site and I designed the site to my liking. I wanted it to be minimalist and clean vibes, and even having this animation in the corner that goes between my name and different titles for myself was something that I thought was cool and could showcase my design abilities. I also, fun fact, used to be a hostess at CPK in high school. That was my very first job. And so I redesigned the CPK app too. And so I took that to the Apple Store to carry out user experience research. I looked at reviews and looked at what people were complaining about. And then I basically categorized all of the different aspects of the app that people were complaining about and realized that people were mainly discussing rewards, readability, and menu/ordering. So then I slowly redesigned the app. If you want, you can stop and read this exact app redesign and all of the notes that I had around it. But I would create these wireframes and screen record myself going through the wireframes so that there was a clear demonstration that you could go through. So yeah, I had all of these other bots that I created a bot as a part of my year op at the MIT Civic Media Lab, which was the undergraduate research opportunity that I had at MIT. I basically designed an app for people who were re-entering society after being incarcerated. It was meant to reduce recidivism. So I studied kind of what was causing recidivism, and I tried to keep in mind everything that I had researched as I was designing the app. So this was like a really interesting thought exercise around something that felt really impactful. And I talk about in my Goldman video why I didn't feel like I was necessarily going to be making an impact doing that. And doing projects like this made me feel like UX design was really an area where I could make impact. And then I added some other just artistic, creative aspects to work that I had done. So for instance, in college, I designed one of the dresses that I wore to formal. I made it. So maybe I'll make another video about my side quest of being a fashion designer. And then I actually ended up modeling that dress. So I put on my portfolio just any kind of creative project I had ever done. And I basically talked about how I made this whole dress. And this was the ultimate dress, and I designed a little purse that was modeled after the Jacquemus mini purse that was popular at the time. And then there was a fashion show at Babson, which was nearby where I went to college. So I actually modeled my own dress, and then I ended up wearing it to one of our last formals. So yeah, that's kind of my entire design portfolio. You can take a little look-see if you'd like. It's also public, and you can design basically a similar portfolio to this in order to prepare yourself for what it would be like to be a UX designer, but also to have something to show people when you're applying to UX jobs. Okay, quick scene change because the conclusion of this video recorded without audio. So I ended up having to re-record it as I was editing. Anywho, now I'm going to go over the actual act of applying for a UX design job and how to secure the bag. So the way that I actually got a UX design job was legitimately just by applying through LinkedIn. There are other job boards like Indeed and Work at a Startup if you want to work at a Y Combinator startup. There are also various people on Twitter that have their own tech job boards that you can potentially look for design opportunities. But legitimately, the way that I got my actual first UX design job was by using the portfolio that I created and just applying to as many things that I could find on LinkedIn that had the words UX design, product design, and anything like that. And then the first job that I got, I just took it because for so long throughout my undergraduate career, I was planning on going to law school and being an attorney. So I thought that it was kind of a long shot that I would be able to suddenly pivot into UX design in just a couple of months. And I figured that anyone that was willing to take me would be just a good start for me to have a foundation for whatever my next step would be. So I just took it without even investigating other options or anything like that. But I think that there are actually better ways to find better jobs that are more aligned with you. And I think there are really two ways of doing this. One is by networking, and two is by going through tech Twitter. So number one, you definitely want to network. I have a separate video about how I got an internship at Goldman Sachs, which is basically my networking course 101. But essentially, you can just cold message people on LinkedIn to try and find the job that you want and try and get referrals and into different companies, regardless of whatever it is. So I would highly suggest watching that video if you are looking to take that route. I would basically look at companies that have openings online and then reach out to as many people as you can that are related to that role and have a coffee chat with them, ask them relevant relevant questions that could help you form your answers for your own interview in the case that you do get an interview for that job. And then at the end of every coffee chat with the person that's relevant to that role, ask them directly, is there anything else that I can be doing in order to get that role? And then you should start doing those things. And then slowly there might be a mechanism of referrals internally or what have you, and they may end up referring you for the job, and you can potentially get it through that way. However, I think another route to get a UX design job is to go through tech Twitter. So in case you didn't already know this, and I actually didn't even know this until a couple of years ago, there is a whole sphere of the tech world and the startup world that lives on Twitter. So if you basically create a Twitter and just look up founder or investor on Twitter and then start following people that have that in their bio, maybe like 30 to 50% of those people will end up following you back, and you can start tweeting your UX design work. And people are inclined to follow other people in tech really, really easily. So you will naturally accrue followers just by publishing things that you're doing in tech that seem cool or creative or curious or anything like that. And especially if you're young, people will gravitate towards it. And slowly you may get inbound jobs. You will also start to see that other people will post job opportunities that they have. There's an entire kind of designer community that lives on Twitter that tweets about their work. And you can also start to see companies that you find interesting, and you could potentially DM those people on Twitter and network in the same way that I suggested you network through LinkedIn. So yeah, essentially after making your portfolio, all in all, you can just cold apply through job boards, which is kind of the obvious next step. You can network your way to a job that has openings to speed along the process of applying through LinkedIn and Indeed and such. And you can also just start publicizing your own work. When you build it, they will come. So yeah, that is how I got a job, and how if I was looking to get a UX design job again, I would approach it. But I hope this was helpful, and feel free to comment your portfolios. I would definitely love to see others.